Welcome to the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by BetRivers. If you're not using the BetRivers app, what the heck are you doing? You could have bet on the All-Star game last night. You could bet on Major League Baseball when it comes back Friday, the WNBA tennis, and a whole lot more, all with the BetRivers app. When we come back, I'm going to take a quick break here. When we come back, longtime NFL head coach, longtime NFL assistant coach, now with the 33rd Team, which is a really awesome website breaking down the NFL, Jay Gruden. He's going to join me in the bullpen next, right here in the Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
You're watching Adam the Bull on the BetRivers Network.
All right, welcome everybody. We are back on the latest episode of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by BetRivers. We're now talking with former NFL head coach, longtime assistant coach. Jay Gruden is with us. Jay, how are you? Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm doing good, thanks. Thanks for having me. Always fun to talk to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to have you with us. And this time of the year, as you know, training camp's about to start. How does it feel internally? What's going on in the belly right now as we head to training camps now?
There's a mixed emotions. You know, you're enjoying vacation, but you're also excited to get back to work. But you're enjoying vacation, and you know the grind that's about to take place. But you're excited for the season to start. You're excited to see all the players again. You take a month off, and it's good to see everybody back in the building and get ready to work because it's going to be a grind.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I say that, but of course I didn't play. I didn't play at any kind of high level. And I think, fans become – obviously football is an obsession in this country. There's no doubt about it. It's by miles the most popular sport. And I think sometimes fans forget that in the end, whether it's coaches or players, you're talking about human beings. And they have the same problems in their lives that the rest of us have. And sometimes we ignore that. And, sometimes a player will have a bad year or a bad camp or whatever. And sometimes it's stuff going on off the field, right? Like that can affect a player or a coach. And I don't think we ever think about that. And especially with a situation like Deshaun Watson, obviously everything that's gone on the field, that's had to affect him in some way. No doubt about it. I would think there's got to be mental hurdles he's got to get over, don't you think?
Oh, for sure. But I think Deshaun's the type of guy that he's ready to roll. I think he's put everything behind him. He's dealt with the issues at hand, and now he's ready to go play football and prove that he can be the quarterback that everybody expects him to be. That Cleveland went out of their way and paid a lot of money to get this guy.
Yeah.
Fight the issues. Now it's time for Deshaun Watson to show up and play football.
No doubt about it. I've had some people tell me recently, because when the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson, I was like, okay, they have their best quarterback since at least Bernie Kosar. I mean, and possibly better, because Deshaun in Houston looked like he was on his way to being a superstar. And now people have kind of convinced themselves, some here in Cleveland, that, well, if he's just mediocre, and that's okay. Not to me. You traded a lot of draft picks to get him. You paid him a lot of money, and that's fine. I don't care. I don't begrudge players making money. But I expect him to be a star. I expect him to be, top 8, 10 quarterback, whatever it is. And anything below that, to me, is a big disappointment. Is that fair?
I think it's fair. Absolutely. The talent that he displayed in Houston, everybody thought that he would be the next coming of whoever, one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the National Football League. He showed the ability to run, escape, and throw accurately down the field and make big plays in crucial situations. However, he has sputtered in the last few years via injury or whatever it might be. The consistency level with Deshaun Watson has not been there, and that's what he has to try to get to. If he doesn't get to that, they're going to have trouble in Cleveland, especially in that division.
No doubt. This division is loaded. You know this division well. On paper, I think you can make an argument for all 4 teams potentially winning 10 games. Would you agree with that or no?
Yeah, I have a problem with Pittsburgh a little bit, but defensively, that's where Pittsburgh will make their hay. If Russell or if Russell can become a little bit of the Russell Wilson in Seattle 5-6 years ago, then obviously they'll have a chance to win the division. But you're right. Cleveland's defense was very good last year. Myles Garrett, the best defender in pro football. And offensively, they got the weapons. And Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, healthy with T. Higgins and all those guys. I mean, it's going to be a great division to watch, and it's going to be close. I think the team that stays healthy, number one, will probably win it. Baltimore's toughness is on display every week. They had a biggest, toughest back in pro football and Derrick Henry to go along with a physical tough football team, so that's going to make them better. So, yeah, I can make a case for all 4 teams, but I personally still think it goes through Baltimore.
When you look at Nick Chubb coming off what was a devastating injury, multiple surgeries after the season, we know this guy has been one of the great backs since he's been in the league. But at his age, coming off this injury, I'm wondering. I saw a video yesterday of him squatting 600 pounds or whatever it was, but I'm wondering if it's going to be hard for him to come back at least right away. What are your expectations for Nick Chubb?
Man, it's hard to expect what happens with him. I know that he is a great guy, and he's going to work his ass off to get back on the field. To what level? I don't think he'll be the Nick Chubb he was after the first injury. Now, he had a major injury coming out of college, I remember, in Georgia.
Yep.
And, he overcame that and obviously became one of the top backs in pro football. Now you add another one to the same leg. I think it's the same leg. It's going to be difficult for him to retain that type of ability, the slashing, the ability to break tackles and run through tackles and use his speed with that injury again. So I'm hopeful for him because I love the kid and I really love watching him play.
Outside of the North for a minute, a lot of people are expecting big things from the Jets this year. I've been working in Cleveland for 13 years, but I grew up in New York and covered the New York teams for a while. And Jets fans are always optimistic. I give them that, but I'm not as convinced as everybody else. We all know that Aaron Rodgers has been a great player, but he's coming off an Achilles tear. He's 40 years old. I mean, outside of Tom Brady, I don't know how many quarterbacks have really played that well at 40. I'm not as confident in Aaron Rodgers as everybody else, even though I know how great he was. Do you think he's going to still be great?
Well, I think, yes. I think he – obviously, I don't think the 40 years old will have that much of a hindrance on his ability to throw the football down the field. Now, what will hinder him is Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses if they don't stay healthy and they have trouble protecting him. That's the issue because he doesn't have the same escapability as he had when he was at Green Bay. So he has to be protected. He's got to get the ball out quick, which he can do. He'll throw the bubble screens and a little cool little slant plays, drag slants, but eventually he's going to have to drop back and throw it. And whether the Jets can protect him or not, that's my biggest concern, his ability to maneuver in the pocket, which really made him special. I don't know if he has that same maneuverability, so to speak.
Who do you like in the East? I mean, everybody loves Josh Allen. He's a great player, but I don't know about the talent around him on offense right now. Obviously, Miami's got some dynamic weapons. Clearly, New England's way off the pace. But who do you like in that East?
You know what? I love Josh Allen, but you're right. I think they're taking a step back skill-wise a little bit, but they do have a strong running game, and I like the way they committed to that late in the season. I think that made Buffalo a contender for not just last year, but for years to come, that mentality. And then obviously Josh can hurt you a lot of different ways. Miami is exciting. I think they're going to upgrade their defense a little bit. They lost a couple key players, but changing coordinators I think will help them. And I think offensively, they ran into a hell of a tough time in the playoffs in that minus 70-degree weather. They said they can't play in the cold. Not many people can play in that type of cold, but these guys are explosive. They stay healthy. Tua stays healthy. They're going to be right in the mix. And of course, the Jets. I think the Jets all around, when you talk about offense and defense, the ability to pressure the quarterback and be able to cover, I think the Jets have the best defense in that division. So it's going to be interesting, but I still think Buffalo is probably a team to beat because of Josh Allen's ability.
Kansas City looking to become the first team ever to three-peat. I mean, Patrick Mahomes to start a career has been as good as any player we've ever seen. How much do you like their chances of doing it again this year?
I think it's probably the easiest bet in sports right now for them to repeat as division champions. I think I think the Chargers are going to struggle a little bit early to try to bring in that Jim Harbaugh toughness system. They don't have the players right now to play that type of style of football. I think the Raiders at the quarterback position are way behind a little bit. I love Gardner Minshew and his toughness, but over a 17-game season, whether it's he or O'Connell, I don't know if they can play to the level that you have to play in to win that division. And, of course, Denver. I think Denver right now is really on pace to be one of the worst teams in the National Football League. Obviously depending on how Bo Nix picks up the system or whoever they play. But they're way behind. And I just think Kansas City's so far in front of those three teams in that division. I think it's an easy one.
Jay, I was debating recently with someone, and I guess I'm probably in the minority on this, and maybe I'm jumping the gun because he's only played 1 year. But I was arguing with a friend, and I said, if I'm starting a team from scratch, I would take C.J. Stroud over Lamar Jackson. My friend said I was crazy. I'm sure I'm in the minority on that. Are you with me, or are you going Lamar? Or you got to see it again?
I'm not against you, that's for sure. I'd love to have either one of them. That's for sure. I've been on teams where I went through 9 quarterbacks my last year and a half of calling plays. That's no fun. So give me CJ, give me Lamar. I'd probably still be coaching. But they're both incredibly talented. But I'd probably err on the side of CJ with you. I think that he's so young, he's so poised, he's got every type of throw in his repertoire. He's only played it 1 year though, so
he's got to prove it.
You got to prove it. You got to prove the consistency level that he has to play with at that position, and I think he can do it. The mentality, hearing him talk, the confidence that he has in his own abilities, and the players around him that they've added, I think he's going to be a special player. But Lamar's pretty damn good too.
It's funny what you said there, and I'm curious as a guy who has been a coach in the NFL. You say, if you had better quarterbacks, you'd probably still be coaching, and that's probably true, right? I've always felt that there are a few coaches who are extraordinary and probably will raise the talent of anybody. And there's probably a few coaches on the bottom end, 2-3 guys maybe, that probably should have never been head coaches. And then I feel like most head coaches, like, you got to be a smart football guy to become a head coach, with rare exceptions in the NFL. And I feel like most of the guys are pretty close, and it just depends what talent you have that makes the difference. Am I making that too simplistic, or is there some truth to that?
Well, coaching does matter, and it's very important to have a guy that's very knowledgeable, a guy who can motivate your team and get the right players in the building to try to create the culture that you need to be successful. But players do matter. You got to have talent, especially at the quarterback position. You got to stop. You got to have some big players that can run, and it's tough. Not everybody can have 11 all-pro players on offense and 11 on defense. You're going to have some areas on your football team where you're going to have to coach them up and try to protect.
Sure.
Coaching does come into play, but it is a player's game, and you got to have great players. And it's no secret. I mean, the teams with the best odds to win the Super Bowl have great players at the quarterback.
That's right.
And a hell of a lot of skill.
And let me make it very clear. I'm not saying that coaching is not important. It certainly is. I'm just saying that we'll look at a team and say, oh, that coach is great. Well, he's got a great quarterback. That other coach might be a better coach, but he's got, Aiden O'Connell, no offense to him, how good can I be if Aiden O'Connell is the best quarterback I got on the roster?
I have had games where I've coached and I look across the field, I see the other quarterback, I'm like, we got no chance. Not fair. You see Josh Allen run out of the tunnel, you see Aaron Rodgers run out of the tunnel, you're like, here comes Patrick Mahomes. I mean, it's tough, but you can make up for it in other areas. You can run the football, protect the football, get after the football, limit the penalties. There's a lot of things you can do as a coach, but at the end of the day, over the course of a 60-minute game or a 17-game season, the players got to step up and make the plays.
From a coaching perspective, we've gone to 17 games here in the last few years. We know it's a matter of time before they go to 18 games. How much more difficult is it as a head coach? The more games you have, we selfishly love it as fans. I love more football, but obviously it takes a toll on the players in terms of injuries. You're more likely to get guys hurt. And how big would it be if they added a second bye as well?
The bye is not that big a deal. It might help a little bit, refresh the players a little bit. But, the biggest issue is when you add an 18th game is, how are you going to protect the guys? I mean, because it's not as good of a product when guys get hurt. You watched the Jets play last year when Aaron Rodgers goes down on the fourth play of his – you saw what a train wreck that was at the quarterback position, how bad that team looked. It was not fun to watch. Nope. And that's the case of a lot of teams. When you lose star players, the backups that come in, there's not enough good players to go around, especially elite players. So you start losing those type of guys, the product isn't as good to watch. I'm in more favor of the 16 games. I know it's not enough money for the NFL, but I'm in favor of lesser games, not more games.
Yeah.
I was at Cincinnati. We in 2013, we had a great team, and we played Baltimore week 17. It was our 16th game, and they had to win to get in, and it was a bloodbath. We lost 3 of our key players on offense, and we weren't the same the following week on a short week on Saturday. So you got to figure out ways to take care of your players, but the more games you play, the more risk, obviously, they're going to have.
Jay, let's wrap it up back with the Browns here. I'm curious your take on a couple of players. One is JOK on that Browns defense, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. This guy comes into the league. He was an intriguing player. You weren't sure what kind of role he was going to play on defense. His rookie year, he was okay. His sophomore year, he was so bad his sophomore year that DeQuell Jackson said to me and to a couple of other guys, because DeQuell used to be a regular on our show before, now he's in the front office with the Browns, and he's a bigwig now. But DeQuell Jackson actually said to me before last year, I don't even know if JOK could play in the league. That's how bad he thought he was. And then the guy had and DeQuell, as you know, I mean, the guy's brilliant. Was a great linebacker. And now last year under Jim Schwartz, he had this massive breakout season, had a great year. What is the truth of JOK? How good is this player? And how it's crazy to me that we've seen these extremes. Maybe that's the proof of coaching there, that Jim Schwartz just found the way to get the best out of him.
There's a lot of reasons people can improve. One, the player might buy into a system and understand a lot better. As young players, they're coming from teams or colleges that don't do a whole lot of scheming, a lot of things that can really help the player develop their skill set. And sometimes when they get in the NFL, a coach sees a skill set and they utilize it perfectly like Jim Schwartz did. So, yeah, that's a great possibility. I think you see in my coaching experience the year 1 to year 2 is a pivotal year for these young football players and how much they can improve from year 1 to year 2, because now they know what the NFL is all about. They understand the system. They understand what it takes to take care of their body. And now they can go out and play more free, play faster. And I think that's exactly what happened here in this case.
Another guy I wanted to hit on is young. There's a young corner on the Browns, Mark Emerson. Drafted him high a couple of years ago. He's been really good so far. And there's been talk, well, maybe they'll let Greg Newsome go after this year, and Emerson could be the true number 2 with Denzel Ward. What do you think of Martin Emerson?
He's a good player. Mississippi State, he's getting better and better. Again, corners' jobs are a lot easier when you can get after the quarterback, and that's what the Browns can do. So
that's true.
You can take a little bit more chances, understanding that Myles Garrett will get home if it's going to be a double move or what have you. So all these corners understand that. They understand Schwartz's scheme. He does a good job of mixing up coverages and letting these guys play physical at the line of scrimmage and cover 2, playing some man-to-man. They understand leverages, and that's important for corner. You have some length and understand leverages and where your help is, and that's what he's doing. So I think he can develop into the true number 2.
And the last guy I want to hit on, David Njoku, who had his best season last year, although his best play was really with Joe Flacco and not with Deshaun Watson. Do you think he can follow up on that and have a good season this year?
Yeah, I think he's going to have to. I think the tight end position is most of the underrated position when it comes to attacking defenses. You have to have a tight end that can work those mismatches. Tight end out wide, that gives you coverage tells. It'll help Deshaun Watson a lot when you split him out at number 2 receiver outside by himself on one side of the field. The safety comes down and covers him. It's man-to-man. A linebacker walks out there, it's 2-man. It's a lot of different tells you can get with your tight end. And Njoku has proven that he can stretch the field vertically, and he can do some of the underneath things, and he can run very well after the catch. So I expect him to have a huge year. Obviously, Amari Cooper will get his catches and the rest of the guys, but Njoku is a pivotal piece of this offense.
No doubt. Jay, we appreciate the time. Thank you so much for joining me.
You got it. Thank you for having me.
All right, welcome back. It's the Bullpen with Adam the Bull. Great talking with Jay Gruden. One other thing I wanted to hit on before we wrap things up is the All-Star game, of course, was last night. And the American League rallies to win 5-3 in the All-Star game. Shohei Ohtani hit a 3-run homer in the top of the third to give the give the National League a 3-0 lead. But the American League rallied back with 3 runs in the bottom of the third, including the game-tying RBI single by the Cleveland Guardians' own David Fry. So of all the Guardians that played last night, all the hitters, Stephen Kwan walked and scored, but did not get a hit. Jose Ramirez started the game, of course, went 0 for 2. He struck out. Josh Naylor got in the game, and he went 0 for 1. But David Fry, 1 for 2 with an RBI, the only hit by a Guardian that tied the game 3-3. And then in the 5th inning, Jarren Duran hit a 2-run homer to give the American League a 5-3 lead, and that was it. American League bullpen shut it down after that, with Kirby Yates pitching the 8th, and appropriately, the Guardians' own Emmanuel Clase getting the 9th, getting the save, 13 pitches, did give up a hit, but struck out 2, and took care of business, only threw 2 balls in the inning. Not a lot of balls, period, thrown in this game. In fact, the last 5 pitchers, Mason Miller, Cole Reagan, Seth Lugo, Kirby Yates, Emmanuel Clase, pitched the final 5 innings of the game and threw a total of 18 balls over 5 innings. That's less than 3 per inning. So it was pretty. I mean, it's an all-star game. You expect a lot of strikes thrown, and there were by almost every pitcher that went yesterday, except for Logan Webb. He had a rough outing. But anyway, it was a good game. The Guardians acquitted of themselves well. And now we have the miserable 2 days off before the season gets back underway. All right, Browns training camp right around the corner. I'll be back on with you tomorrow live at 2 p.m., so make sure you join me Thursday, 2 p.m. We're working on some good guests for next week as well, with training camp just about to start 1 week away from training camp and the Browns getting started. Until then, thanks to Max for producing today. Thanks to Jay Gruden for joining me. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. Please subscribe wherever you watch or listen to this podcast. Please give a thumbs up and a like. I appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by BetRivers. See ya.